In the early 2000s, Lindsay Lohan seemed unstoppable. With her fiery red hair, effortless charm, and natural talent, she rose from Disney's golden child to Hollywood's next big thing. Movies like The Parent Trap, 1998, Freaky Friday, 2003, and Mean Girls, 2004, made her a household name and a cultural icon. She was everywhere, on magazine covers, in music videos, on red carpets, an actress and singer who embodied youthful energy and star power. But behind the flashbulbs and fanfare, Lindsay was spiraling. What began as whispers about late-night parties turned into front-page tabloid scandals, arrests, failed rehab stints, courtroom breakdowns, and probation violations. The same paparazzi who once celebrated her every outfit now stalked her every stumble. By her early 20s, Lindsay wasn't Hollywood's darling anymore, she was its cautionary tale. How does a child star with the world at her feet fall so fast? So hard, and so publicly? This is the story of Lindsay Lohan, from Disney's brightest flame to the face of Hollywood excess. And the long, difficult road to redemption. In the early 2000s, Lindsay Lohan seemed unstoppable. With her fiery red hair, effortless charm, and natural talent, she rose from Disney's golden child to Hollywood's next big thing. Movies like The Parent Trap, 1998, Freaky Friday, 2003, and Mean Girls, 2004, made her a household name and a cultural icon. She was everywhere, on magazine covers, in music videos, on red carpets, an actress and singer who embodied youthful energy and star power. But behind the flashbulbs and fanfare, Lindsay was spiraling. What began as whispers about late-night parties turned into front-page tabloid scandals, arrests, failed rehab stints, courtroom breakdowns, and probation violations. The same paparazzi who once celebrated her every outfit now stalked her every stumble. By her early 20s, Lindsay wasn't Hollywood's darling anymore, she was its cautionary tale. How does a child star with the world at her feet fall so fast? So hard, and so publicly? This is the story of Lindsay Lohan, from Disney's brightest flame to the face of Hollywood excess. And the long, difficult road to redemption. Lindsay D. Lohan was born on July 2, 1986, in the Bronx, New York, but raised on Long Island. From the start, her life carried the contradictions that would later play out in her career. On the surface, she was a bubbly little girl with freckles and charisma. Underneath, her family life was unstable and turbulent. Her mother, Dina Lohan, worked as a dancer and later a manager for Lindsay, pushing her into the spotlight at a very young age. Her father, Michael Lohan, was a former Wall Street trader whose life was marked by legal troubles, arrests, and substance abuse. Their volatile relationship, on again, off again, often punctuated by public fights, created an atmosphere of instability. Lindsay would later admit that her parents' toxic marriage left deep scars, even as she sought to maintain loyalty to both. By the age of 3, Lindsay had already entered show business. Signing with Ford Models, she appeared in more than 60 commercials as a child, including spots for Pizza Hut and Wendy's, and even modeled for Calvin Klein Kids. This early exposure to the entertainment industry became both her training ground and her cage. Childhood playdates were replaced by auditions, red carpets, and constant scrutiny. Despite her family's chaos, Lindsay was described as exceptionally talented and professional. Casting directors praised her ability to take direction, memorize lines, and deliver natural performances beyond her years. Yet the pressure of being the breadwinner at such a young age placed enormous strain on her. As her career grew, her parents' conflicts only deepened, with custody battles and financial disputes often making headlines. In many ways, Lindsay's childhood encapsulated the paradox of her later life: immense talent nurtured in an environment of volatility. She was a child star who should have had everything, but she was also a little girl carrying burdens far too heavy for her age. The stage was set for both brilliance and breakdown. Lindsay Lohan's childhood quickly blurred the line between school and stardom. She attended Cold Spring Harbor High School on Long Island, Where classmates remembered her as bright but often absent, her education repeatedly interrupted by auditions, filming, and publicity tours. For Lindsay, the classroom was never the center of life. The real lessons were unfolding on sets and in studios. By age 10, she had already broken into television with a recurring role on the soap opera Another World, 1996-1997. Her red hair and expressive face made her stand out, and Hollywood casting agents began to take notice. That opportunity led to her big break at age 11, when she landed the starring role in Disney's remake of The Parent Trap, 1998. Playing twins Hallie and Annie, Lindsay charmed audiences with her comedic timing and emotional depth, earning comparisons to a young Jodie Foster. The film grossed over $90 million worldwide, and Lindsay suddenly went from child model to Hollywood's most promising young actress. Throughout her teens, Lindsay continued building her resume with appearances in commercials, TV movies, and small projects, but Disney remained her launchpad. They positioned her as the new face of family entertainment, capitalizing on her relatability and charisma. Off-screen, Lindsay's growing fame made her a tabloid curiosity, but on-screen, she maintained a reputation for professionalism and natural talent. Her education suffered in the process, though she tried to keep up with schoolwork through tutors. The demands of constant filming left little time for a traditional teenage experience. Instead of high school dances, Lindsay was walking red carpets. Instead of study hall, she was learning how to navigate contracts, interviews, and paparazzi cameras. By the early 2000s, Lindsay had carved out a clear trajectory, no longer just a child model or soap actress. She was a legitimate star in the making. The combination of her natural talent, her Disney affiliation, and her growing media presence placed her on the fast track to full-fledged stardom. But the same accelerated path that brought her fame also denied her the stability and grounding most teenagers rely on, a missing foundation that would later haunt her when fame became overwhelming. By the early 2000s, Lindsay Lohan had evolved from promising child actress into one of Hollywood's most bankable young stars. Her real breakthrough came in 2003 with Disney's remake of Freaky Friday. Opposite Jamie Lee Curtis, the body swap comedy was both a critical and commercial hit, grossing over $160 million worldwide. Lindsay's performance earned praise for balancing comedic timing with genuine emotion. And suddenly, she wasn't just a former Disney child star, she was a teenage leading lady. That momentum carried into 2004, a year that would define her career. She starred in Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen, a modest hit, but it was Mean Girls that transformed her into a cultural icon. Written by Tina Fey, the high school comedy became a generational touchstone, quoted endlessly and referenced in pop culture for years to come. As Katie Heron, Lindsay embodied both innocence and transformation, her natural charm anchoring a film that launched careers for her co-stars and cemented her own status as Hollywood's it girl. With 2 box office hits in the same year, Lindsay was suddenly everywhere. She graced magazine covers, from Vanity Fair to Rolling Stone. Fashion houses courted her, MTV embraced her as a youth idol, and she transitioned into music, releasing her debut album Speak, 2004. The record sold over 1 million copies in the US, proving she could carry both films and pop charts. For a brief moment, Lindsay seemed unstoppable, an actress, singer, and celebrity whose star power rivaled Britney Spears and Hilary Duff. Her success continued with Herbie, Fully Loaded, 2005. Another Disney film that pulled in strong numbers despite mixed reviews. That same year, she released her second album, a little more personal, raw, showcasing her growing ambitions as a performer. Though her vocal talent was often debated, her ability to attract fans was undeniable. But along with stardom came scrutiny. By her late teens, Lindsay was a tabloid fixture. Nightclubs, high-profile romances, and rumored feuds with other young celebrities began to dominate coverage. Still, studios trusted her, banking on her name to attract audiences. She was cast in more mature roles in films like Just My Luck, 2006, Bobby, 2006, and Georgia Rule, 2007. Each project reflected her attempt to move beyond teen comedies into serious acting. At her peak, Lindsay commanded millions per film, ranked alongside Scarlett Johansson and Natalie Portman as one of Hollywood's most promising young actresses. But unlike her peers, she was also navigating a chaotic personal life with little guidance. Her parents' public conflicts, her immersion in the party scene, and relentless paparazzi pressure created a combustible environment. Lindsay's breakthrough years, from 2003 to 2006, were a dazzling showcase of her talent and star power. She had gone from child model to Disney darling to cultural phenomenon in less than a decade. Yet beneath the red carpets and chart-topping soundtracks, cracks were beginning to show. Her youth had been traded for fame, and the discipline that had defined her as a child actress was slowly eroding under the weight of freedom, temptation, and constant media attention. It was the golden era of Lindsay Lohan, the years when she embodied both the dream and the danger of young Hollywood. The fall, when it came, would be as spectacular as the rise. If Lindsay Lohan's career made her the darling of Hollywood in the early 2000s, her love life and personal entanglements made her the tabloid's favorite headline. Every date, feud, and breakup was splashed across glossy covers, adding fuel to the media frenzy that surrounded her. Her first widely publicized romance was with fellow teen star Aaron Carter, sparking one of the era's most famous love triangles with Hilary Duff. Tabloids painted Lindsay as the wild counterpart to Duff's wholesome image, a rivalry that cemented her reputation as Hollywood's bad girl. While the relationship was fleeting, the media spectacle it generated was a preview of the storm to come. As her fame grew, Lindsay's partners became higher profile. She briefly dated actor Wilmer Valderrama, That 70s Show, in 2004. A relationship that ended with more gossip than harmony. The following years brought rumored flings with Jared Leto, Colin Farrell, and even Bruce Willis, stories that may have been exaggerated but fed her growing image as a reckless starlet. Perhaps her most defining relationship was with DJ Samantha Ronson, which began around 2008. Their on-again, off-again romance dominated entertainment news for years. Some praised Lindsay for openly defying Hollywood norms with a same-sex relationship. Others saw it as another example of her volatile personal life. Public arguments, paparazzi chases, and cryptic social media posts made the relationship seem more like a performance than a private affair. Still, it was one of the most authentic chapters of her love life. Lindsay often spoke of Samantha as her anchor during turbulent times. Lindsay was also known for her friendships turned feuds with Paris Hilton and Britney Spears, with the three often photographed together in the infamous party circuits of mid-2000s Los Angeles. The trio's late-night escapades became symbolic of the celebutante era, wealthy, young, beautiful women whose excesses were devoured by paparazzi. Lindsay's presence in that world only deepened the perception that her life was spiraling. Marriage, however, never came, unlike many of her peers who settled into more traditional family paths. Lindsay's relationships rarely lasted long enough to hint at permanence. Instead, she became Hollywood's eternal bachelorette, her love life a carousel of rumor and intrigue. Each new romance was framed less as personal fulfillment and more as spectacle, fodder for tabloids that delighted in her chaos. In truth, Lindsay's romantic history was less about genuine intimacy and more about the pressures of growing up in the public eye. Relationships that might have been ordinary for someone else were magnified into global gossip. Every kiss, fight, or Instagram post became evidence of her instability. Combined with her growing substance abuse issues, her love life became entangled with her scandals, reinforcing the image of a star out of control. By her early 20s, Lindsay Lohan was no longer just an actress. She was a brand, a headline, a cautionary tale, and her love life was central to that transformation. In the court of public opinion, she was not allowed to be young and confused. She was expected to be either the Disney princess or the Hollywood train wreck. Inevitably, the latter won. By the mid-2000s, Lindsay Lohan's name was less associated with red carpets and box office success and more with flashing police lights and mugshots. What began as whispers of late-night partying snowballed into one of Hollywood's most infamous celebrity meltdowns. In 2007, Lindsay's troubles became undeniable. At just 21, she was arrested twice within a matter of months, once for driving under the influence after crashing her Mercedes in Beverly Hills, and again for possession of cocaine and driving with a suspended license. The arrests were splashed across front pages worldwide. For many, the image of the once bright Disney star in a mugshot symbolized the dark side of child stardom. Courts mandated Lindsay to attend rehab, but compliance proved difficult. She cycled in and out of facilities, often leaving early or relapsing soon after. The paparazzi captured every moment, stumbling out of clubs, fighting with friends, crying during court appearances. By the end of 2007, she had spent more time in rehab and courtrooms than on film sets. The years that followed were a carousel of probation violations, failed drug tests, and jail stints. In 2010, she was sentenced to 90 days in jail for violating probation terms from her DUI case, though she served only a fraction of that time due to overcrowding. The symbolism was stark. Lindsay Lohan, once a Disney darling, was now an inmate. That same year, she infamously showed up to court with the phrase, F************** you, painted on her fingernails, a defiant gesture that cemented her image as rebellious and unrepentant. Her legal woes didn't stop there. Between 2010 and 2013, Lindsay was arrested multiple times for charges ranging from shoplifting a necklace to reckless driving. Judges grew increasingly frustrated with her, issuing stern warnings and threatening harsher sentences. Each court appearance turned into a media circus, with live coverage on television and endless debates online about whether Lindsay was a victim of fame or an architect of her own downfall. Meanwhile, her career was collapsing. Film offers dried up, and when she did land roles, such as in I Know Who Killed Me, 2007, or The Canyons, 2013, they were either critically panned or overshadowed by stories of her unreliability on set. Directors and co-stars complained of her chronic lateness, diva behavior, and inability to focus. Once seen as the next Meryl Streep, Lindsay was now deemed uninsurable in Hollywood, a label that all but ended her mainstream career. Adding to her struggles was the relentless tabloid culture of the 2000s. Paparazzi followed her every move, and gossip blogs like TMZ made her their primary target. Unlike stars of earlier eras, Lindsay's downfall unfolded in real time, with every slip-up documented, mocked, and meme-ified. She became the poster child for the era's obsession with celebrity train wrecks. Her personal pain consumed as public entertainment. Behind the headlines, Lindsay battled serious issues with addiction and mental health. Friends and family staged interventions, but the chaos of her environment, and the lack of stability from her parents, who often used her fame for their own spotlight, made recovery difficult. Lindsay herself admitted in interviews that she had lost control. Yet her attempts to regain it were constantly undermined by the same ecosystem that profited from her collapse. By the early 2010s, Lindsay Lohan was less a working actress and more a cautionary tale. Judges, journalists, and fans alike debated whether she would survive her 20s. The combination of drugs, alcohol, legal troubles, and media ridicule painted a grim portrait. The girl who had once ruled Hollywood high schools on screen was now Hollywood's most infamous dropout. Her downfall was shocking not only for its severity but for its speed. Within less than a decade, Lindsay had gone from a $7 million per film leading actress to a tabloid punchline standing before judges in orange jumpsuits. Her story became emblematic of an era in which fame was both a crown and a curse, and few embodied that contradiction more vividly than Lindsay Lohan. The wreckage of Lindsay Lohan's scandals left her career and reputation in tatters. By the early 2010s, she was no longer a leading actress but a walking headline, Hollywood's favorite cautionary tale. Casting directors deemed her unreliable, studios refused to insure her, and her once lucrative endorsements dried up. The girl who had once commanded millions per film now struggled to book roles at all. The legal and financial consequences were severe. Lindsay owed hundreds of thousands in taxes, faced mounting legal fees, and endured the humiliation of probation check-ins monitored by paparazzi, even when she managed to land parts, such as in Labor Pains, 2009, or The Canyons, 2013. The projects were overshadowed by stories of her erratic behavior on set. Each attempt at a professional comeback seemed to dissolve into another headline about missed rehearsals, conflicts, or yet another court appearance. But Lindsay refused to disappear. In 2014, she took an unexpected step by moving to London's West End, starring in David Mamet's play Speed the Plough. The production received mixed reviews, but critics acknowledged her effort to re-establish herself as a serious performer. Away from Hollywood's relentless paparazzi culture, Lindsay found breathing room to rebuild. She also tried reality television as a way to reclaim her narrative. The docuseries Lindsay, 2014, produced by Oprah Winfrey's own network, chronicled her struggles with sobriety and her attempt at a comeback. Though the show exposed more of her vulnerability, it also reinforced how difficult it was for her to escape the chaos. Viewers tuned in not just to witness recovery, but to see if she would relapse, a reflection of how deeply her downfall had become embedded in public entertainment. In the late 2010s, Lindsay shifted focus internationally. She opened beach clubs in Greece and appeared on MTV's Lindsay Lohan's Beach Club, 2019. Though short-lived, the ventures showed her entrepreneurial side and offered a glimpse of a Lindsay no longer defined solely by scandal. The most surprising turn came in the 2020s. Lindsay quietly re-emerged as a film actress, signing a multi-picture deal with Netflix. In 2022, she starred in Falling for Christmas, her first major leading role in over a decade. While it was a light-hearted holiday rom-com, critics and audiences received it warmly, celebrating not the film itself but the fact that Lindsay was back on screen, sober, professional, and seemingly stable. Her comeback was not about reclaiming the crown she once wore as Hollywood's teen queen, but about survival. Lindsay Lohan had endured addiction, jail, bankruptcy, and humiliation. The fact that she was working again, with new projects lined up, represented victory in itself. Still, questions linger. Can Lindsay truly sustain her resurgence? Or will old patterns re-emerge? Hollywood is notoriously unforgiving, but audiences, fueled by nostalgia, seem ready to embrace her. For a generation who grew up quoting Mean Girls, Lindsay's return feels less like a comeback and more like a reunion with a long-lost friend. For Lindsay, the consequences of her downfall were devastating, but her attempted comeback suggests resilience. She may never fully escape her past, but she is no longer defined entirely by it. As of the mid-2020s, Lindsay Lohan lives a life far quieter than the chaotic headlines that once defined her. Now in her late 30s, she has relocated much of her personal and professional activity away from Los Angeles, finding stability in Dubai, where paparazzi laws are stricter and privacy is easier to maintain. In 2022, she married financier Bader Shammas, marking a turning point in her personal life. A year later, she welcomed her first child, a son named Luai, a milestone that seemed to signal a new chapter grounded in family and responsibility. Professionally, Lindsay has begun rebuilding her career with deliberate steps. Her Netflix rom-com Falling for Christmas, 2022, was met with warm reception. Not for cinematic brilliance but for the joy of seeing her back on screen. It was followed by other planned projects, reaffirming that Hollywood, and audiences, are willing to give her another chance. She no longer headlines blockbuster teen comedies or front-page scandals, but she occupies a different role, that of a survivor reclaiming her narrative. Public perception has softened. Where once she was mocked as a tabloid punchline, many now view her as emblematic of the darker costs of fame. In an era more sensitive to mental health and the pressures on child stars, Lindsay's story resonates differently, less as a morality tale and more as a lesson in resilience. And yet, the open question lingers: can Lindsay sustain this stability? Hollywood is a place of reinvention, but it is also a place that never forgets. Her legacy is complicated, a mix of box office hits, cultural touchstones like Mean Girls, and years of public implosion. For some, she will always be the girl who could have been, for others. She is the woman who survived. The curtain has not fallen on Lindsay Lohan. Whether her present is a true comeback or simply a quieter chapter remains to be seen. But one truth endures: she has lived out her rise, fall, and rebirth in front of the world. And against all odds, she's still here, writing the next act on her own terms.